We have Corey Scott, CISO at LinkedIn. Corey, welcome.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right, cool. Cool. So welcome, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great night tonight. Thank you to Passcode and the hosts at Uber for having us today. A little background about myself. I am currently the Chief Information Security Officer at LinkedIn. I've been at LinkedIn for 4 years, and prior to joining LinkedIn, I was Director of Consulting at Montesano Security. Some of my previous roles also included going and finding bugs for our customers at Montesano, and also way back in the day and at Stake. For the last 20 years, I have been finding bugs, fixing bugs, and dealing with incidents when bugs don't get fixed. And so it's really, it's great to talk about a little bit of being a little bit of a contrarian here about bug bounties. That being said, LinkedIn does have a private bug bounty program. It's invitation only. It's curated, a set of researchers as part of this program. We have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in bounties in our private bug bounty program, but I don't believe that it is for everyone, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts around that today. So, first of all, I'd like to say that we're basically at peak bug bounty hype right now. And you can see by the assertion, Joe Sullivan, the Uber CSO, stated that not running a bug bounty program amounts to negligence. That's a bit of a strong statement. Maybe in the court of public opinion, it may be the case, but a standard of negligence is failing to provide due care in the handling of something that you're responsible for. And it's not a deterministic set of controls. A bug bounty may result in great things for you, or it may not provide much value. To indicate that it could be at the level of negligence to not have one is a bit hyperbolic. So the counter to this that I'd like to propose is that constructively engaging with security researchers is truly table stakes for a modern security program, but it doesn't have to be a bug bounty program. And so we go on a little bit more, and of course the vendors are going to jump in, including one of our sponsors here, HackerOne, saying that there's no better initiative that you could launch in 2017 than a bug bounty program on HackerOne. And so, I'm sorry, guys, but the industry consensus would disagree with you. There's the Center of Information of Internet Security that works with SANS to define the top 20 controls that any organization should have, and like really boring stuff like classify your data, train your engineers, use encryption from time to time, that kind of stuff. And then even BSIM, which is just focused on application security, has 110 potential initiatives and controls that you could introduce, and only one of them is a bug bounty program, and only under level 3. So it's the industry consensus is just not there, as much as we would like to think otherwise. So then I can't just pick on BugCrowd. I mean, I can't just pick on HackerOne. I got to go and hit BugCrowd a little bit too. So they started to see these kinds of objections coming from contrarians like me, and saying, well, there's a bunch of these are myths, and most of them are like, they're myths as long as you use our service. We'll take care of those myths for you. But I want to just attack a couple of those real quick. First is that they say that it's actually not too risky to run a bug bounty program. And my counterpoint to that is what happened over at Facebook and Instagram. And this is a headline from Forbes, where you had a scenario where a bug bounty researcher was not satisfied with the fact that he found a compromise in a Instagram server, but went and stole the Amazon access key from that server, then used it to exfiltrate data out of the Amazon Web Services, which included Instagram customer data, in order to make his point about how severe this vulnerability is, making it a full-blown incident. Thank you very much. So to say that it's not too risky without taking some of these cautionary tales into account is just not a good idea. The second is that they don't yield high value results. That's true. You will find good bugs. Here is a graph of Google's vulnerability program, and it represents kind of in a graphical format the number of bugs that they get. And so if this is a giant field and there's all kinds of reports in this field, and let's say it's a farmer's field, this is all poop right here. This is invalid reports, junk that you have to deal with. Only down here, maybe right over here, are the high quality bugs that you actually want to get, right? So yes, they can give you some high value results, but you got to wade through a lot of crap. So I saw on the news last week that there's actually emoji is becoming a full-blown language, and there's actually translation services that are focused on emoji. So I decided, I'm going to be able to talk to the kids today, so I'm going to do a slide in emoji. And I'm going to use it to explain the concept of contraindication. So imagine you go to the hospital and you're not feeling so good. And you've got some pain, maybe in your side, and the doctor gives you codeine to take care of you. And you take it and you feel great. And so this is the happy path of, any type of treatment that you might take. Now, let's say instead you feel a little dizzy. You've actually had some head trauma, but your side still hurts too. Doctor gives you codeine and you die. Because under that circumstance, codeine and a head injury are a contraindication that actually results in death due to some neurological conditions that I'm not even going to try to explain here. So, with that in mind, I want to outline 4 contraindications that may be present before you consider a bug bounty program. So the first is that you don't have time or money to burn. So we had our colleagues already from Zenefits and AT&T who came up here and talked about signal and static and the bunch of crap that they had to deal with to get actually the good bugs. And so there's ways to deal with this, right? You can actually have your own team go and triage these bugs, in which case you're going to burn out your InfoSec talent very, very quickly. Or you can pay someone else, like a bug crowd or a HackerOne, to do it. But realize these folks are representing your security team. They're representing your security brand, and you're opening it up to a much wider set of people who now know information about your security and the aspects of it. Many of these companies use outsourcing, by the way, and often will bid to many contractors to do this level of triage. Additionally, we need to think about just simple rational economics. Is that if you have, let's say, 1,000 bug bounty programs today with a good group of researchers that are filling into that. Let's say we double the number of bounty programs, or triple, or make it 10 times, so we're at 10,000 bounty programs. The pool stays just about the same. So then what you end up doing is you end up chasing folks. You hear about these double bounties, quadruple bounties, quintuple bounties, just to keep people interested in your program. You have to show a lot of shiny in order to keep these folks into your program. The second is if you're really interested in comprehensive coverage, bug bounty programs may not be the best for you. Imagine, using my medical example again, that you go into the doctor's office and you say, I want my annual physical. I want to be evaluated from head to toe. And you go and you sit in the doctor's exam room, and all of a sudden the door bursts open and 5 cardiologists, 3 chiropractors, and 10 oncologists rush in the room and start poking and prodding you and then you get a bunch of results and you're like, is that a physical? No. But that's what bug bounty programs do. You have people who are very specialized in a few sets of bugs, but you cannot guarantee that you get a comprehensive assessment. Part of a good security program and a good security test actually has a dedicated test plan that goes point by point by point, including all the boring, low payout things too, because those can be important too. Additionally, you value a clear line between vulnerability research and active compromise. So we can again use that story about Instagram as a cautionary tale for researchers who really want to try to get their point across that they actually have a really good bug, and they oftentimes will go too far. One of the things that I saw in the discussions about like from the bug bounty vendors is like, well, these people, they won't do that because they're, they have mouths to feed. This is part of how they do their job, and they'll be thrown out of the program. But realize that there are lots of other people participating in these programs than just vetted researchers that are good folks and good eggs, like Luke over there. But this is all going to be fun and games until a criminal enterprise decides to use a bug bounty program to cover data exfiltration of customers, right? And so we have to be aware that there is that significant risk. And then finally, and this is a nasty externality of bug bounty programs, is around internet safety. So if I am a security researcher, and this happened last year, where they found a bug in a library and a shared service that was used by lots of internet companies. So what did they do? They didn't go and report it to the library maintainer or the shared service that all the different companies were using. They went and reported it to each individual user of that library or each individual user of that shared service to maximize their payout. Why report it once and get paid $10,000 when I could report it 50 times and get paid $10,000 for each one? So what happens is now all of a sudden you've got people that are incentivized not to get the core functionality fixed in the core component where the root cause of the bug is, but instead you're spreading this vulnerability information around like hazardous material, just people being irradiated by it. So the challenge is that bug bounty programs create these perverse incentives sometimes for software vulnerabilities to actually live longer in the ecosystem because all of us companies are paying them individually. So, in conclusion, well, it's a bit of a reality check here. Mismanagement of your security budget is just as negligent as failing to adopt a particular high-end control. Additionally, there is much more industry and expert consensus on a wider set of controls. That being said, everybody needs a good vulnerability reporting and response process. And if you have any questions about that, Katie's going to be coming up in a little bit to talk about some of her experience there. And then finally, mature security programs can address some of these contraindications. But the question you need to ask yourself is in every case, is it actually worth it? Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions? I don't think we should just let you walk away after that. Fire. Does anyone want to get in on that out there in the audience before we let? All right, we got one. Nope. The CEO of Bug Crowd. All right.
I was most interested in your last point of the externalities and libraries thing.
Sure.
I can sort of buy the other ones, and it seems sensible to me, but that one, do you really think it's true that someone will find vulnerability in FFmpeg jump around 20 times and it will not bubble up to be correctly fixed?
So for those online, is there really ecosystem risk, right? Will people really just fix it 50 times over instead of going to the source?
And so, I think there have been cases, both in libraries such as ImageMagick, for example, that happened last year, that bug could have been fixed and handled in a much better way if it wasn't for the bug bounty ecosystem. And I think that's been proven. There's also shared vendors like SendGrid, for example, where there's a vulnerability with a particular provider, and instead of them reporting it to SendGrid to get it fixed, why would they do that when they know eventually they know that the bug will eventually get back to SendGrid, but they'll also get paid out by another 12 to 20 companies who use SendGrid before they get there. Katie? Yeah.
So I agree with everything you said, number one. Can you repeat that?
Katie agrees with everything
Katie
I
Masuris
said.
agrees with everything that was just said.
But there's also another thing where, do you remember the DLL planting issues that were shopped around by a company to sell consulting services? So that was independent of a bug bounty program. So that they called that commercial vulnerability disclosure. They tried to use CBD for a different purpose, but yeah,
Right.
that can happen even without a bug bounty program. But also, I agree with you.
You're right. There are other externalities caused by, for example, vendors and other people who are trying to do it. It's not just bug bounty programs that can cause these types of problems.
So the one that you're referencing, Image Tragic, that bug never would have been found without the bug bounty program, though, because half of the research was done because the bug bounty existed.
Okay.
That retweet was an endorsement. Okay.
I'll add to it from my own perspective and the program that we run. We have run into a lot of vendors that at this point we can't get away from, and SendGrid is unfortunately a perfect example. And they've been very slow to fix stuff. So for my part, running the program, I would rather know about an issue and pay it out so we can build our own walls rather than just hope that this vendor gets around to fixing it eventually.
Yes, and so that is kind of the crux of the problem, right? Is that I, as someone who's using a vendor or a service, I want to know about that bug as soon as I possibly can, and hopefully it's something that I can mitigate or control, right? And maybe having that a little bit of information, at least I can monitor it, I can look for it a little bit better. But the problem is that when you, as you know, the only way you can keep a secret is to just never tell anyone, right? And so the larger the community, as these things get passed around and shared, the more the user community is at risk as well by the fact that we are buying vulnerabilities and consuming them as a larger part of the organization. So.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming.